Hello and welcome to all our lovely listeners. A very happy new year to all of you. And you're listening to the Totally Indian Football Show with me, your host Suju. And I don't think I would want to start this or kick off the podcast for the new year with none other than dear good friend of mine and of the show. I'm so glad to have him back. Sandeep, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are you, Sijo?
Doing fine. I hope the new year has probably started on a good note for you. How's it going?
Yeah, New Year started on a very busy note for me, let's say.
Great. I think I am anyway known to ask people to, make time for me in their busy schedules. So you are added to that list once again. Thank you so much for doing this.
Not that busy also.
Well, then let's get started because it's been a while that on the Total Indian Football Show we haven't spoken about what the shenanigans that are happening in Indian football. We'll kick off things with the Indian Super League, which has been, I think, one of the interesting, if I don't want to be caught off guard or corrected saying that if I call it one of the most interesting ones, because at least the top half of the table looks pretty good. Sandeep, you have, Hyderabad won the game, so they are now 1 point lead ahead of Mumbai City FC. But Mumbai City FC will now take on Kerala Blasters on Sunday. And Kerala Blasters are sitting in the third position. A lot of things are happening. It's actually a very crazy one. What is your take on, in overall, the way, whatever the action that you've caught so far in ISL?
Well, I think to summarize it on a large perspective will be difficult in the sense of performance. So we'll do that once we get into the discussion. I'd just like to say generally about football being back, in the sense that it is back with the people. There are fans in the stadiums again. That's been a wonderful move. But that said, I live in Bangalore, right? So I watch Bangalore FC most of the time, and their current form is not great. I think I'm not sure, but then their fans are still coming into their stadiums. I heard Jamshedpur is having really good crowd, and obviously Kerala absolutely dominates in that sphere as well. So good that football is back with in front of the people. It's great that people like Des Buckingham and stuff like that. When we had multiple conversations last year about him wanting to experience the proper culture, even Ivan Vukmanovic said the same. So these guys are all getting a chance to see what football is all about. Which part is crazy, which part is indifferent, which part is on in between. So overall, a great thing. I was surprised with the numbers that they got in the middle of the World Cup, which I did not expect them to sort of retain that kind of numbers. So kudos to that also. I saw a recent stat also that it's one of the most watched league or the most watched league in Asia. I'm not really sure about what metric and stuff that is. So yeah, all in all, good things I guess for the league at least. Let's hope everything around it can also sort of you know
Yeah, I mean, like you're mentioning, like, of course, so we can always give out those stats, but to talk about just, I think it also matters what happens on the field, right? Like, for example, Kerala Blasters, the way they've been performing, they had, and it's also the first time that they've retained their coach, after going back and forth with trying out with different coaches, but they stuck to Ivan, and he's delivered, right? Back to back wins, and they currently sit at the third place with 25 points, and they are coming into Bombay playing Mumbai City FC with great confidence because they come from a win. Both the teams are coming in from a win. So when you look at the on field performance, do you also see even that has improved?
Yeah, absolutely. It's no surprise that the top three teams, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Kerala, as it stands right now, are where they are because they've retained the coach. Now, there is no chance that Ivan Vukmanovic could have been removed from that place because he had a phenomenal season last year and he came on our injury time and told that he wants to stay. And if they'd still let him go, there would have been riots, I think. So fair play to them, and they've built on it. So if you're focusing on these three teams particularly, I know Kerala's maybe 5-6 points behind the leaders, but I think what Ivan has managed to do in the sense that he has bought that team and he plays in a manner that resonates with the people in Kerala, that the fans can feel. They don't always dominate games or they don't always play the kind of game that is going to make you feel like, oh, what a great team. But they are effective. His substitutions are good. He is able to get the crowd involved. He's got them on his side because it's a very Kerala crowd you've seen in the past that they can turn against the coach, and if they do turn against the coach, it's a very difficult situation. But he's got them on his side. I think they're little bit punching above their weight, and that's kudos to Ivan, kudos to the players, especially the foreign players. I mean, is there? I don't know. I think Luna, as rated as he is still underrated for what he does for that team. And the recent goal that they scored, with the whole back heel and running from one end to the other, like, absolute beautiful goals. So they're getting dirty goals, they're getting good goals, look like a really good team. I don't think they will end up winning the Shield. I don't think they will even possibly challenge for the Shield, but I would be really, really scared facing them in the knockouts because I am not sure how the knockouts are going to be this year. But if they get into the knockout position, any team playing them is going to have an absolute nightmare because these guys are on it most of the days. And it's no surprise, right? The top three teams, I think between them in the last 5 games, so let's say 3 into 5, 15 games, I think Kerala drew one. Otherwise, they're all won everything. So 14 games, these three teams have won in 15. That's a phenomenal number. Mumbai, I think again continuity is there. Des has done a phenomenal job in developing Changte, developing Apuya, even Vinith Rai to that extent. Bipin's consistency has been good. He's added Greg Stewart, who's probably not probably the best player in the league, especially last season. And on top of that, he's got Diaz playing in a slightly different role, which suits the team. So he's got everything properly dialed in. You would expect them to be where they are, considering the money that they spent. And yeah, so but I think that should not take away from what Des has done as a coach and the kind of. I mean, we've seen Changte get into these positions again and again and again and not really convert, and suddenly he's doing it. And it's like Van Nistelrooy says, right? It's a ketchup bottle sometimes. Once you keep hitting the back of the bottle, once the goal comes, it just keeps coming. So hopefully, Changte can continue that long into this, going into the Asian Cup as well. And I think when I spoke to Des, I think a podcast will come in the next couple of days. He was very happy with having that time to prepare for the Champions League because that meant that they were together through the whole league, had a lot of injuries. People like Rowland was injured, and there are also few others in between kept getting injured. Then he had the time, had a good Champions League campaign as well. And now coming into the season, they looked much better, much more cohesive. Apuya is doing really well. He's added layers to his game. So all in all, that's a great team as well. And Hyderabad, who I think is everybody's sentimental favorite, who does not spend that much money, but Manolo is such a guy that he's managed to get that team into. I mean, he's overperformed with that team for the third straight season, and that's absolutely phenomenal achievement, especially in Indian football, where they've consistently lost players. First they lost Liston, this season they lost Ashish Rai, but they've always managed to turn it around. And even when they don't have foreigners, they don't complain. I mean, the whole reason why Yasir, Hitesh, and all the rest of them are playing as the way they are, or got opportunities at least, is because these foreigners were injured at some point or the other. Manolo does a phenomenal job in making these players stick. And I've seen them play. I saw them recently against Bengaluru FC. They don't play like they don't have a lot of possession and they don't play in that style. And there are a lot of other teams who probably play prettier football, you can say. But Hyderabad, they look so comfortable defending, so comfortable, and they know that there is an out ball when they counter attack, or when they're on the ball, they have players who can deliver. And what he has done, look, I think 2013 is the first time I probably thought of Halicharan Nazari as this young player who's probably going to be a really good one for Indian football. For years it looked like that was a flash in the pan and he was never going to be that player. But I think there is no other Indian player who's improved as much as Hali has, and the impact that he's having in goals and assists. And I saw some people say things like, there are nobody in the stadium. From what I understand from people that I've spoken to, it because the stadium is not very convenient to get to that easily. It generally fills up towards the second half, so maybe that could be a factor as well. But all in all, if they continue doing that, it's great for Hyderabad football, which has sort of been dormant for a long time. Yeah, these three clubs have been great, and I think the top two especially, very different teams, very different coaches, very different financial situation. Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And that's what, like you said, the football drives the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned certain players, and I think, being in Bombay, you get to watch matches here. So I would speak something which I've seen in person. It's a completely different ball game when you watch certain players on TV and then you watch them live. You just then kind of believe why the whole hype is, and the hype is very real. Because when you actually see a Changte and Bipin play live, and it's like, I mean, I don't know if it'd be too much if I said it's poetry in motion, because these guys are absolute workhorses, and you see them, like, because the camera only shows when the player has the ball, right? But when you're on the field, you're watching them throughout the game, and it's just phenomenal to see these. They are young, they really have good potential, and I think that's where, the future kind of holds, because we see that, okay, it's not all that bad for us. So because it's absolutely crazy to see them, and I think, yeah, like, talking about Mumbai City, I think Debapriya Deb on Twitter, I remember his tweet that he mentioned the current Mumbai City FC team is the greatest team of all time in the history of Hero ISL. And he also went on to say, what do you think? Do you see that? I mean, do you agree to this point as you've followed ISL?
That this Mumbai is the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, they certainly have a shout. I think if they go the whole league without getting beaten, for sure. I think that 2017 Albert Roca's Bangalore team was a very good team as well. They went through, and I think they lost some games because they were so, like, Roca is such a coach that he's like, you take it or we'll take it. There is no settling and all. So sometimes he makes too many attacking changes, and that affects also. And in the end, they were cruising, so they sort of ended up playing kids and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely there is a point to the fact that they are probably one of the best teams. If they go the whole season without getting beaten, for sure, you can claim that. I'm trying to think actually if there was any such a dominant team.
Yeah, I think that the team that you mentioned.
Yeah, I can't really have anything. I think this is,
Yeah.
and I'm not looking at ISL before AFC approval came, right? Because that was a tournament and that was like a little different. So
Yeah, no, because the
yeah,
team that you mentioned that went on, I think it's the same team that got 40 points, right? Way before anything happened, and they were on top of the points table. I think most of the matches were still remaining, and they were already qualified, sitting up there, cemented their position.
yeah.
So
But the
definitely,
funny thing is, right? A team like that, if they didn't, there was no shield at that time, right? So they won it and then they lost the ISL, and you don't think of them as a great team. There's next year when Carles Quadra took over, and he did a phenomenal job as well, getting them to the whole title and everything. So he did a great job as well. I think both of those teams probably you can put there, but Rokas was probably aesthetically pleasing and maybe a little more dominant in the way they played. So yeah, but I think Mumbai is right up there, and I think by the end of the season we'll be looking at the most dominant team in ISL history, which is only like 5 6 years to be fair. So I'm sure we'll have hopefully better teams. Hopefully we'll have better teams as well.
yeah, absolutely. And I think, yes, to keep things clear out there, we are definitely only focusing at this point on the men's football before anyone comes and says, oh, we're talking about football and we've only addressed
Yeah, I
one
mean
part of
women's
it.
football. I think
Yeah,
recently Gokulam is up, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So before we move away from talking about the on-field performances and the leagues that we're looking at, and we've spoken about how these top half of the teams in ISL are doing well. Now, the I League, most of us haven't been able to catch because of the timings that are there. But whoever's listening to our show wants to be part of my show and talk about I League, feel free to reach out to me, DM us on the Humans of Indian Football Twitter page, Instagram, or personally to me also. I'll be more than happy to host you, and we can discuss about I League as well. But we spoke about Mumbai City.
Yeah. Can I just make one mention about the I League?
Yeah,
Not so much about the matches and stuff, because it's an absolute travesty that to watch I League is such a difficult thing, right? Just to get to watch them, you have to find the app, and sometimes they stream, sometimes they don't. It's all over the place a little bit, and because of the job as well, it happens mostly when we are working. So that's also an issue. This is the season where you are going to promote a team, and people should be paying attention to these teams, and people should be allowed to watch these teams as well. And it's an absolute travesty that we are in the situation where Srinidhi is doing amazingly well. We did not expect that from them maybe at the beginning of season. Kashmir, Round Glass, Punjab, Gokulam is not who we all thought is probably the shoe in the manner that they have sort of played the last few years. They are not having great season. So There were so many storylines over there, and it's just sad that many people cannot follow all of this.
Yeah, I think the last I checked, Srinidhi were up on the points table, leading the points table. So yeah, it definitely is interesting, and I think it always has been interesting. But yeah, unfortunately, most of us aren't able to catch the action. But let's come back to what we are able to watch and what we are able to talk. Now, we spoke about these two teams and these three, four, five teams that are doing pretty well. I think before we move away, let's talk about how all of this that has happened so far is going to give us a really good game on Sunday, because it's all these things that we spoke about is a good build up to Mumbai City FC versus Kerala Blasters, and it's always, I think, and always a good fight to see these two teams play. The last time Mumbai City went to Kerala Blasters, it was they were hammered. But the scenes have changed because KBFC have been a different team altogether this time around as they come as visitors. So, Sandeep, what are you expecting for the Sunday kickoff between Mumbai City versus KBFC?
Tough question, because you can never really count out Kerala and the way they are playing. It's easy to say, Mumbai are the most dominant team; they should be able to win and stuff. You can say it in some sense in a boxing or a MMA sort of a sense. You have this one team who is a very pure sort of the way they play football, technique and everything is right. And then you have the other person who is able to land that one knockout blow, who can hang in there until he gets through the difficult parts and then sort of pick up and dominate. You've seen those are the fights that you enjoy watching. And this is a match that I think it'll be the same. Like, see, if it's in Mumbai's home, but I do think Kerala will get a lot of support there as well. So I don't think it'll be like you go to Kerala, it's difficult for an away team. But you go to Mumbai, I think wherever Kerala travels, more or less they do get huge support. So yeah, they are going to be right up there. And if Mumbai has, I mean, they are one match less than Hyderabad. So even if a draw is there, they're still sort of, there and thereabouts. But if they lose this, then it might be a little difficult. And then that means it gives hope to Kerala as well. So yeah, all in all, a lot of things are riding on this. Maybe we won't look at it because they are 2 and 3 and just fighting for the title and all of that. But a very important game and a very big slippery slope for Mumbai and a huge opportunity for Kerala.
Yeah, like you mentioned when you started talking about this, it's a difficult question to answer because the matches that I've watched so far live, and I've gone in confidently, yeah, Mumbai is going to be like probably I've predicted like the first half is going to be like this and it's going to be that way. But with KBFC, the way that they're going, yeah, I mean there should be. I think Mumbai City shouldn't be going into this complacent. They should know who they're facing, and I'm sure it's definitely going to be a cracker of a game for Sunday night. Now, let's talk about the other things that probably also go around with Indian football, that is off the field. We are all aware that we have a new regime in hand with AIFF, and they have shared certain plans with regards to what they plan to do going ahead. And if I'm not wrong, on we are recording this on the 6th of Jan, and on the 7th of January there's a press conference and there's some meets that happen and they're going to discuss something more. So I think, Sandeep, what do you have to tell us about this particular thing that's going to happen on 7th of Jan? And so far, before you talk about that, what is your take on so far whatever they've done?
So far, there has been a lot of photo opportunities and Twitter comments and all the rest of it. Like, I do think sometimes we are little overboard in criticizing the new regime because they have just taken charge. And to expect them to unravel everything that has been done in AIF for the last decade or 2 decades or whatever it was, it's going to take a lot of time. Now, obviously, there are people in the AIFF who, let's say, are not the most favorite, of the people who are watching football and the ardent fans and stuff like that. I feel like we have to give them opportunity. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about Chaji here. He gets a lot of stuff thrown at him on social media and stuff like that. But from what I understand, talking or listening to people who are in and around AIFF offices, he is actually trying to do make some changes. Like, he's called in a lot of there was a lobby, he's sort of broken that lobby coming in. He's trying to change few other things. I can't really divulge a lot of these, but he is trying to make some changes that is going to be long lasting. Now the question is, will he be able to do it, and is he going to do it in the right way? That's a whole other discussion. But his initial ideas are fine. As far as Kalyan Chaube is concerned, I did speak to him. I met him when he came to Bangalore. He seemed to have fairly decent interest in moving football on. I think the fact that they pulled out of the 2027 Asian Cup bid was a good move. Although selfishly, I do feel like they could have hosted it also. Then people could have seen, maybe that would have been a huge boost for football and interest in Asian football. So maybe we missed a boat there. But like when I did a story about hosting these mega events, one of the things you find is India is not. It's not about stadiums and infrastructure is there. That's not a problem. The problem, the questionable issue is that you are hosting events which we have no right to even play. But Asian Cup is not that. So I did, I was a little sympathetic towards that bid actually. But anyway, so obviously moving away from that, hopefully they are looking at the long game. So we'll talk a little more once we discuss the strategic plan. But yeah, initial thoughts are, I think we need to give them a year to see whether they have done good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, yeah, we are all, because the way it's been going on, we always feel that we're always at the receiving end for different things. But yes, time should be given, and they've just gotten and they're trying to do. So we have to all wait and see. But let's come to now talking about the big day, the big thing that's upcoming, which is on 7th of Jan. What is it called? What are they going to reveal? What are they going to share? And what are you expecting from it as someone who's followed Indian football for so many years now? And can we actually hold on to a hope that, probably it's looks like, if not really good, but at least better than what it was before? What can we expect from this big meet?
I mean, the interesting thing is nobody can say what we can expect, and this strategic plan is one of the most closely guarded secrets that has ever come out of AFF in a while. Because this is a trump card, right? This is the major big thing. They came into the office, the new regime, and immediately they had to deal with. Okay, we have to host a international event. We have to host a World Cup. So all hands on deck. Everything else can take a hike until that event is over. So that was a focus in the beginning. They did that. Then now the question was, oh, I League is almost here. Oh, okay, fine, fine. Let's just do it here at this time. Let's figure out whatever we have to in terms of telecast. We can just get away with it this year. Then that happened. Then is when they actually started working. So now you got the promotion confirmed. I am a skeptic about that, but I do feel, and I'm whatever I'm hearing from the association people or people around that is that promotion is going to happen. AFF is particularly bullish on the fact that promotion has to happen. So I think they might even help the club moving up, because the operational cost for an I League club to an ISL club is going to be significant. So they are going to help them. I don't know how exactly in terms of sponsorship and stuff, but there are talks in that. Hopefully, if they have to, they might be able to help them out a bit. Maybe push some boat further than the club can. So stuff like that is on the works. But yeah, so strategic plan is neither new. It's not a new concept because every 2019 they had a strategic plan. 2014 or something they had a strategic plan. Obviously, there was the Lakshya scheme as well by Robert Mann. So all of this has been happening. The issue is implementation, and the last regime certainly did not do anything to improve Indian football. And while ISL was the villain in many sense of the word, but they are essentially what kept football alive in India. I mean, let's be very honest with it, because I League before ISL's, they put it front and center. I League used to happen, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and stuff like that, and people were finding it difficult to come. If you had a floodlight, you could play at 7:30. But how many teams, wanted to do that? Production quality was bad. It was not promoted, and all of those. So ISL, as much as they have some flaws, and they do have some really big flaws, they did keep the football alive. So now this strategic plan coming into the fold, I think there are few things they have to hit, and if they don't hit it, I'm just going to call it as a failure, because they have to ensure that the calendar is given ahead of time. That people know, not just the I League and the ISL teams and the I League 2 teams. the elite league, the youth league, whatever football is going to happen, Santosh Trophy, everything you need to have a calendar. At the beginning of the year, the teams, associations, the organizations, administrators, they need to know, because then you can plan your local leagues around it. Now you're just playing the local league. Suddenly there is Santosh Trophy coming. Oh, okay, let's just pick up some players and we'll put it together and send them there. That it doesn't work like that. If you want to have a proper structure and a system and a long season, this is the only way to develop football. You need to have a calendar ahead of time. You need to ensure that the coaches' education happens, because we don't have that many good coaches, and we need to ensure that coach education happens, and the youth development. There are enough games, especially after under 12, and this, if you have to make it into smaller regions and have the teams play within that region, and then have a south zone, east zone, west zone sort of a thing, and then have one final, because the fact you can't have these guys traveling around and spending so much money, that just, it doesn't make any sense. You play within your means, you play within your area, you play 40, 42, 50 games, then you make sure, then you get some improvement. And this is not rocket science, this is what everybody is doing. Even Shaji has been tweeting about Japan's great success in the World Cup and stuff. So you know how they did it. We all wrote articles about it, we've heard people come and talk about it. It's not that rocket science. So you just need to ensure that there is a structure that runs it, and that's, AFF has failed in that for so many years. And we also had a couple of years without youth leagues, and that generation of players, you will feel that in 6 7 years, because that generation of players may not be as good as the ones before or one after, because you're all looking at Reliance Youth Foundation or a few other academies to produce top players. Players are coming from everywhere, and I think some stuff are happening, especially in Mizoram and stuff, which is great. Some new ventures are also coming up, but AIFF themselves has to ensure that tournaments are happening. And to that extent, AIFF has promised, I think, 27 or 24 lakhs to state association to run their football, which is something that AIFF has never done before. And now that they are doing it, they need to ensure that there is accountability where this money is going. When I spoke to Kalyan Saube and A. Harris when they were here, they said that it is not going to be like one time 27 lakhs. You are going to give it as over the months. And as and when they need more, they might increase a little bit more and increase a little bit less, depending upon the footballing activity also. So, association like the Tamil Nadu Association, the Chennai FA, all of them have failed to conduct any event for so many years. Their leagues are not working for so many years. At the same time, their office bearers are sitting in the AIFF and having no issues. They did not face any flack. And this is, I'm not pulling up Tamil Nadu alone. There are other states also who didn't do anything. Like Rajasthan United is one of those stories, when they had to play, I think, 8 games in 11 days, just so that, oh, we finished the league, so you can send up a team for the second division league. And Rajasthan did not expect to win that. They won, and then they went on to do quite well, actually. So these kind of stuff cannot happen. You need to have a clear understanding of what tournaments and how many tournaments are happening. And if the state is not doing it, punish them. Either debar them, or take away their money, or do something or the other to ensure that they are punished. We can't just keep, you know, accepting mediocrity, because that is becoming part of our lifestyle now in Indian football, and that's not fair. And there is so much corruption also, and there are, like, people slag on a lot of states who are doing things like Karnataka State League, the BDFA Super Division and all. It's not the highest level. Like, so a lot of the times people see players in Karnataka in the Super Division and think they can go and do well in the ISL. It's not the same level. Goa, Kerala, West Bengal, then the Mizoram, Manipur, they're all probably higher than in terms of intensity and level. But every year they're improving, and that's all you can ask. Like, they get this year, I think BDFA Super Division had 19 games or something, which is great. I mean, you can say that league could have been two-legged, but there is just not enough space. So in the calendar and all that kind of stuff. So they need to get this in line as well. Youth development, keeping accountability, and also figure out who is developing the player. Are the clubs supposed to develop players? Is the AFF going to do it with their elite youth system or whatever that is? Or are they going to be the smaller clubs who are going to do this, these soccer schools and all of those? Or is it going to be a state federation? Because right now it's like people are just all over the place. Nobody knows who's supposed to do what. Figure it out and make a clear pathway, so that you know that there is a future. players can play and there is a pathway for them to improve. And I think also AIFF owes a huge apology to women's football in India. What they've done to that team who was supposed to play in the Asian Cup and then couldn't because of administrative redundancy. I'm just going to call it that because you had all these teams who flew in from everywhere, and the host nation, who basically didn't have to do any of these flying, was the one who got absolutely smashed with this COVID coronavirus. And they flew in less than a week before. Why couldn't you be there a week before? So I'm absolutely going to call a spade a spade. It was an administrative redundancy. Happened with Gokulam, who was actually ready to play the tournament, a tournament in which an Indian club could actually do well, potentially do well, do good things. There, when you got the FIFA ban and they lost it, the money that team spent, the effort that the coaching staff, the players, and all the rest of them put, that's a horrible thing to happen to anybody. They need to apologize for it. And then the under 17 World Cup also. Those girls, I don't think you guys did any favor to putting those girls out there to get absolutely smashed in front of the world and get criticized by the world media. A lot of them were saying Indian girls have no idea what it's doing. Sure, it's a great experience for them. It will be something that will be in their mantle and in part of their name forever. But it is again, we were probably wearing two big shoes for our feet at that point in time. So this now going forward, they need to figure out better. I know IWL is getting better. I think they are planning to improve and increase the games and stuff. Do it. Do whatever you have to do to ensure women's football, because the difference in the level in women's football as opposed to the top level in men's football is lesser. I'm not going to say they are going to immediately go and play the World Cup. They are not. There's going to be difficult. There is a process in there, but probably you can help them. And stop taking players because of their name. Take players because of their skill. Do proper scouting. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. Of course, it's easier said than done. But yeah, these are all the things that probably I expect them to do something about. Not just write, like if they write it in the strategic plan, great. We'll give them that year, a 2 year, whatever it is. If they don't implement, then yeah, then it's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I think the ones that you mentioned, I think my key points I'm looking at is one word, if I have to put it up, sum it up, is development. Development of your players at all levels, be it men's or women's, development of your coaches, and I think that also includes development of your referees. So, more the game time, I think that just helps all of them who are part of the stakeholders on field to get their job done and better. And that also puts a great onus on having a great team behind the scenes who probably have take care of the coach education, who take care of the scouting network, to have the best there and to develop those kind of people as well, because that is the key. And if all of them who say they are in it for to developing the Indian football, then I think these are the things that Sandeep you just mentioned have to be looked out. And I mean, I don't think anyone would disagree to what you mentioned about what has happened to women's football. I think more often than physically, it's been a mentally disturbing year for them, because with what's that happened at the camp, then the whole mess that happened with like both the tournaments that you mentioned. And it's always the case that it's never their fault, it's never the players fault, right? And but they still are at the receiving end. So definitely, I think even if there's no apology, if they can have more game time with regards to IWL, or even having tournaments among the national team, so even the national team also improves. Yeah, and I think we should, one thing is what we should stop is probably put up a team for the sake of it just before a tournament, just to host. And I think that's, you can take it in a good light of probably taking off the AFC Cup, but then yeah, what if it was a FIFA event? Would we ever say no to that? Now that's a question too. Who, I don't know who's going to answer that. But anyway, I think a lot of things on the plate for us to see what is going to be actually put down there. As of now, we only see the plate. We have to wait and see what gets added into it. And as Sandeep mentioned, if these things are implemented or at least put on paper, fair enough. We at least give them that. But if it's not there, then you've invited trouble right there. But to sum it up all, Sandeep, as a year, I mean, this is our first episode for this podcast of the year, and if I had to ask you, Apart now, most of the things depend on what's going to happen on 7th of Jan. But otherwise, how do you see this year pan out for Indian football?
Well, it's a difficult situation to answer. Let's see. Okay, the first one has to be the Asian Cup. I hear it could be anywhere between November or January of next year. The dates are not completely fixed. I heard some players when I was asking some players, they said it could be हमने तो सुना है November भी होगा and all. So we'll see what time it is, but that is going to be a major thing. And I think the biggest gift that they can give is that give the Indian team 3 weeks or something to prepare for that tournament. If it happens in the middle of the ISL, stop the league, or at least if you're not stopping the league, let the national team players out so that they can prepare. Now, this is easier said than done. I don't believe that this will happen, but I'm honestly telling you that this time, if you go there thinking, oh, we played okay last year and we are going to win, that's not happening. Last time we manipulated the ranking to be in the position where we are on a higher pot. We were theoretically not the worst team in the, like we had theoretically worse teams in the box, at least in terms of number, the world ranking and whatnot. This time we don't have that luxury. Lot of the other teams who we thought were worse than us have actually gone forward. So you never know who's going to come in our pot also. So you have to understand that this team has to play and prepare well to go to that tournament. And last time we keep lauding, just before we started also, we saw a Twitter message from AFC saying, oh, India won their first game in this many years in AFC tournament and whatnot. We finished at the bottom of that table. We finished behind Thailand, who we beat that time comfortably, which is one of the big moments in that tournament. So we should not forget where we actually ended up finishing. And none of our age group teams have also set this world alight either. Some okay performances, but age group I'm little loath to talk too much about because we know the situation with the age fraud and all the rest of it. So I'm not always convinced that that's the best barometer to check. But at least we would know that there is a great generation coming, and often that is the case. But yeah, they have to get that time to prepare. I don't know if they will. If there is a campaign to be started to ensure that happens, I think it's a good point to start right now. We have to ensure that happens. Otherwise, it will be an embarrassment for us. There is a very good chance it will be an embarrassment for us. Then the women's football and the general structure of football has to improve. However, that may be, it's just that a lot of it will depend about what comes tomorrow. There is also the issue with finances. I don't think a lot of people are looking at the finances as well. Clearly, there is a bubble in the ISL, the spending on players and everything. They are spending beyond their means. A lot of the teams are obviously struggling, and I mean, we all know teams are losing money as well. We have to know that if this keeps happening and there is no return of investment and there is no going upwards in terms of higher viewership or higher prize money or bettering the level of the football in the country, playing better in Asia or something like that, it is going to affect, maybe not next year, maybe not this year, maybe not in 5 years, but it's certainly going to affect in the long run. We've seen so many clubs shut down in the I League. Two have already shut down and reopened in some sense of the word in the ISL already. And we've had ATK Mohun Bagan, a club that was bought over. We have East Bengal, who every start of every season is trying to find new sponsors to stay afloat. So these are not good signs. We see what is happening in the Chinese league. Teams shutting down, one of the great champions are being relegated. These are things that will legitimately happen if you don't see what is coming for you. If you don't have an eye on the in front of you, looking at the what is happening down the road. So hopefully they can solve all of this. And yeah, I just want to be in a situation where I don't have to constantly moan and complain and feel bad about Indian football in some way, shape, or form. Just let's be one of those people who are just happy, happy to see their teams play, happy to see their clubs play, happy that they're doing well, happy things are going up, instead of always having this dark cloud of, oh, this is great, but at the same time that is not good. So I don't need that caveat anymore. I've done this for a decade. I'm just tired of that. So let's hopefully 2023 will be the start of us stopping that kind of feeling coming in.
Yeah, and I think that's a great note to end the show with. And, we just like, I've always said this, and I think I keep repeating whenever I talk about like Indian football on field performances or whatever happens off the field, I always end. It's since the first episode ever I did for a podcast with TFG, and then even on to now, it's like we only hang to that hope. We live on that hope that things would get better. But as Sandeep mentioned, let's only again hope for the best after the 7th Jan, and we look forward to a
But
year.
I will end it on a morbid note
Yeah.
though. Because you mentioned, right, all the hope that we drive.
Yeah.
If you look at it, there were few Indian football journalists who used to actually dig deeper and write hard hitting stories. Over the years, those guys have left. And there are others who are thinking of leaving or in the process of leaving. Because the more you enter, the deeper into that belly of the beast, it's going to be it's not good. It's okay to be in the surface and write nice stories and everything. That is great. There is always room for great stories. But when you hear about what happens in the back, in the meeting rooms or behind the scenes, it's not very good. And a lot of the people have sort of lost hope and left. Let's hope that that doesn't happen to more people. So that's another thing that I wanted to touch on because I
Yeah,
recently heard a
yeah,
couple more
yeah.
have left. So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Because even like the platforms like your zone injury time, and whether it's the routine football show, whether the other creators out there, there needs to be something that keeps us all going. Stories will definitely be there, but then again, it boils down to how we are doing on the field. So hopefully, from what we are looking at, things get better from here on. Thank you, Sandeep, once again for taking time out for doing this, and I think it's a great episode to kick off things with at the Total Indian Football Show. Thank you so much.
thanks for the chance.
To all the lovely listeners, thank you once again for continuing with your love and support. We need that even more in this year as well. So, and I only have to say that expect some great people on the show as always. But yeah, for the couple of months at least, I've logged in some interesting guests who are from India, from outside India. So hopefully, you would be looking forward to the Total Indian Football Show as well. We are available on all the audio platforms, so do listen to them on your preferred platforms. You can follow us on socials, Humans of Indian Football on Instagram, and our Twitter handle is at the rate official HOIF. I'm your host, Suju, at the rate Suju Matthew 94 on Twitter. Please feel free to reach out to us as well. If you want to write to us, humans of Indian Football at gmail.com. Whatever, you can reach out to us about our podcast, the stories that you want us to cover. You want to have someone on the show, do let us know what are your thoughts, and we'll try and get it done. Thank you once again for all the love. Please do follow and subscribe to our podcast. Once again, thank you very much.